Welcome to another exciting tutorial. FlipFluid has released a new version 1.4.0. Before it was not possible to create multicolored simulation within one domain, but now with the help of new attribute features, it's possible to create multi-colored fluid and mix those colors together, as you can see on the screen in the demo video. So let's get started and jump to Blender. Select the default cube and scale it up 10 times its original size by pressing S, 1, 0, and create a duplicate of this cube by pressing Shift D. So now we have two cubes. You can see in the outliner this is cube and this is cube 0.001. I will rename the first cube to cube-domain. And I will rename the second cube to cube-fluid. Now select the cube-domain and go to Physics Properties and apply FlipFluid and change the type to domain. Select the second cube, cube-fluid, and apply FlipFluids and change the type to fluid. While cube-fluid is selected, you can go to the Item tab and you can reduce the Z scale to 1. So this will act as a fluid at the bottom of the domain. So I can select the Move tool and I can bring it down so it's at the bottom of the domain. So this will act as a fluid on the bottom. Now we are going to create 4 spheres which will act as inflow and they will release the water or the fluid in the scene. So let me create or add a UV sphere. I will press 7 on the numerical keypad to go to the top view. And I'm going to place this sphere something like this at the upper left corner of the domain. Before I duplicate it, I should apply FlipFluid. So the FlipFluid will be applied to the duplicated spheres and I don't have to apply them again and again. So I apply FlipFluid and I make it type Inflow, and I want it to release the fluid in -Z direction. I will type -5, and now I can duplicate this by pressing Shift D and placing it at the upper right corner. I can duplicate it again pressing Shift D and I can place it somewhere around here and duplicate it again by pressing Shift D and put it something around here. So you can see with the help of these Blender units, which are squares, I am able to place them with a balance. And if I go to my normal view, I can see I have 4 spheres. I can select them all, and I can bring them down, something like my example which I showed you before, something like this. I can rename these 4 spheres just for better management. So I will call the first sphere as sphere dash 1 and second sphere as sphere dash 2, third sphere as sphere dash 3, and the last sphere as sphere dash 4. So now let me check if my setup is really producing the fluid by doing a test baking. So I will select cube dash domain and I will bake it for some frames just to see if it's really creating the fluid or not. So I will just stop it, and if I move my timeline playhead, I can see, yeah, it is generating the fluid, so that's fine. I will reset the bake, and now we have to deal with the new attribute system, how to apply multiple colors. So while this cube dash domain is selected, we can go down in FlipFluid settings. We can see this FlipFluid surface, and we have some new attributes here, geometry attributes or color attributes. We are going to use this color attribute. You might not be able to see this in your Blender because you should be using the newest version of FlipFluid, and you need to enable one setting by going to edit and preferences, and by searching for FlipFluid add-on inside add-ons section, and you can expand it, and you have to enable developer tools. It's not enabled by default, so you need to enable developer tools, then you can see these settings. So I will activate this color attribute, and I will also enable mixing. I will bring the mix rate to around 25 and mix radius to something like 2 or 3. The next step is to select the spheres like sphere 1, and you can see now we have color attribute. I want this one to create a dark yellow color, and sphere 2 to produce something like dark blue, sphere 3 something like dark pink, and this one sphere 4 something like red or orange. So you can select different colors here, and I will also select the cube dash fluid, which is the fluid at the bottom, and I will just keep it white, RGB 111, so it will be producing white fluid. Third step, we have to apply a special material to the fluid surface. So I will select the fluid surface, and I will go to the shading work space, and I can apply a new material from this tab, or I can just go to material properties, and while fluid dash surface is selected, I'm going to create a new material, new, and I will call it fluid surface material, and I'm just going to use this principal BSDF. I need to add another node, so I can add it from here and search for it, and I have to add this attribute node, and I will join color with base color. And one very important step, without this step it's not going to work. So in this name area or name text field, you need to write flip_color, and you have to write it exactly like this in small letters. If you use capital letters, it's not going to work. Let's go back to layout workspace and do another test baking just to see if system is going to work or not. So I'm going to do baking, and I will change the viewport shading to rendered, and there is only small light in the scene, this one light. So because of that, we are able to see that it's generating fluid of different colors. For better lighting, I will go to world properties. If you know how to add HDRI lighting, so you can use environment texture, but I'm just going to use simple lighting here with the background, and color I will change to white or something like this in the middle. And I'll go to ray visibility. I will deselect the camera, so camera cannot see the light, but we can see the lighting in the environment. And I will select cube-domain again, and I will go back to physics properties, and I will stop the baking around frame 30. So I have stopped the baking around frame 30, and by moving the playhead on the timeline, I can see that my multicolored fluid has been generated. If you want the color to be more concentrated, or if you want more color here in the fluid, white fluid, then you can go back to shading and select your fluid dash surface. And if you remember, we created a special material for this. You can add another node here just to enhance or give more color. You can go to add and search for hue and saturation node, and you can just plug it in between here, and you can change the saturation to 2 or 3 or 5, 4 or 5, something like between 2 to 5. And you can see now we have more color. Go back to layout workspace, and our fluid is looking beautiful. I will change the end frame to something like 400. I forgot to add keyframes for inflows, so they don't emit more fluid after some time. So I will select sphere 1, and I will go to frame number 180, and till frame 180 I want it to work properly and emit fluid. And in the enabled state, so I will right click here and I will say insert keyframe. Then I will move to frame 181, just the next frame, and I will disable this, and I will again right click and insert keyframe. So this sphere 1 is going to emit fluid from frame 0 to frame 180, and then it will stop emitting fluid. So similarly, I have to do the same thing. I bring my playhead back to frame 180. I select the second sphere. I go to enable, right click, insert keyframe, go to frame 181, disable this, and right click, insert keyframe. So let me do the same thing for the remaining spheres. So all the spheres will emit fluid till frame 180, and after that they will stop emitting the fluid, and the fluid will get more time to get settled on the ground with the other white fluid, and it will give you more better composition. So let's do our final baking at a resolution of 100. When you do your final baking, you can use something like 200 or 300, but for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just using resolution 100. I will reset the bake and I will bake it again. So I will bake around something like 300 frames, and I will see you after the baking is done. So I have baked around 300 frames, and it took me something like 30 to 40 minutes at a resolution of 100. And let me see how my fluid looks like. And it looks perfect. Let me check it in rendered viewport, and I can see it looks beautiful, and it's mixing smoothly, very nice. If you want to change the look and feel of your fluid material, then you can select fluid surface, and you can go to shading workspace, and here you can change the feel and look of your fluid using this principled BSDF. Maybe you would like to make it more shiny or glossy by increasing the specular, by decreasing the roughness, and even you can replace this shader with another shader like glass shader or glossy shader. So this is where you are going to change your material look. Let me do a final render, and I can arrange my camera. You can arrange your camera as you like. So I would like this view to be my camera view. So I can press Ctrl Alt 0 on the numerical keypad. Using this shortcut turns your current view into the camera view, and now you can see my camera is looking at the same view. Add a plane by going to add menu, mesh, and plane. Make it very big by pressing S for scale, and then 300 S300. so it's very big. And then press 1 to see the front view, and by using move tool I can bring this plane down so it acts as a floor or ground. And I will go to the material properties, and I will apply a new material to the plane. I will call it plane material, and I will change it to glossy, and I will change the colors to something like gray, something like this. I don't need this slide. If you need this slide you can keep it, but maybe I can delete this slide by pressing X, because I am getting the light from world properties from this color. By pressing 0 I can see my camera view, and go to your camera properties by selecting your camera and go to camera properties. Change end value to something like 1000. So camera can look more further. Let me change my camera a bit. Position for my camera. Okay, I am happy with this camera view. And before I do my final render, let me check some basic render settings by going to render properties. Make sure your render engine is cycles, and you can go to sampling, and in sampling you can select any maximum samples. I will just select something like 32, and remember to select denoise. And that's it. Let's press render image. And you can see we have a beautiful render of mixed fluid colors, and it looks fantastic. If you don't understand anything, and if you have any questions, you can post in the comments and I will definitely answer your questions. And see you in the next video.